All right, today's daily break and run. It's time to take a look at some more difficult racks. I'm trying to find ways to give more value to you out of these videos, other than just watching me break and run racks of 9 ball. So if you have suggestions on things you'd like to see, please let me know down in the comments. All right, so this break I got a little more side spin than I intended to get on it. And as you can see, the 1 and the 6, and I'm going to pause it here. The 1 and the 6 are fairly close together, uh, and the angle is not natural into the corner. So I'm going to have to, obviously the 5's in the way, so I can't play the combination, which does not go anyhow. Um, so when you're figuring out caroms like this, okay, so that's what I'm going to have to play here because I have no choice. The 1 is too thin to cut directly into the corner. Um, the 6 ball blocks every other option other than the left side, which is also a super, super thin cut. But having the 1 fairly close to the 6 like that actually gives us an advantage on figuring out this shot. So let's take a look here. Um, so if you draw a line through the edge of the 6 to the very edge of the corner pocket right here, okay? So that's our tangent line that we need the 1 to go down. Now, the the 1, in order to hit that spot on the 6, needs to be cut in this direction. All right, so the 1 has to be cut down to make contact here so that it will follow the tangent line into that pocket. And remember, remember that the tangent line is the edge of the ball, not the center of the ball, and that's going to come into play here again in a moment. Now, when we hit this, though, the cue ball. So, in order to get the 1 to go down that tangent line, if you look at the center of the ball, you have to draw a line parallel to that goes through the center of the ball, and that's our contact point for the cue ball. And so again, when you're talking about contact points, you're talking about the part of the cue ball that actually touches. So this is what we're going to get, and the cue ball is going to come off of this in this direction. Okay? Now, with a shot like this is a pretty complicated shot. You have to you have to make a cut into a carom and control the cue ball at the same time. So you're not going to do anything wild and crazy with this. If you put draw, that changes the way the cue ball travels. If you were to put draw on it, if you were to draw the cue ball to try to come off and get back up over for the 2, it would cause the cue ball or the 1 ball, instead of following this tangent directly, it would force it forward, and then you run the risk of the edge hitting here, and then you just hang the ball. So you don't want to do that. Uh, Likewise, if you put top, it causes the 1 ball to rebound at a wider angle. And again, you don't really want that because you run the risk of hitting this. You really need it to follow that tangent exactly. If you have to put draw or follow on this ball, then you have to adjust your aim point all the way along. So we're going to hit this with it. Actually, we are actually hitting slightly above center on it. Um, but we're not hitting it in a way that's going to drive the cue ball forward. We're just going to let the cue ball come across the table and back over. Um, and we'd like to stop the cue ball. We'd like to have the cue ball stop right about here. That would be, let me make that the right color. We'd like to have the cue ball stop somewhere out here where we get a nice angle on the 2, because if you look at the 3, when we're planning for the 3, uh, it can't go in anything, either of these two. It does go up in, it can be made in this corner. it can be made in this side, it can be made in this corner, and it can be made in this corner. Those are the four corners, four places that the three ball can be made. So you really want to take a look at this. If we can stop here, then we can shoot the two in and just roll up here, which is our preferred leave for the three. We'd really like to be right here shooting the three into this corner because it's the simplest shot there is. Well, actually, we'd like to be kind of up a little bit more, maybe up here, so that we have an angle so that we can shoot the three and just rebound up for the four. Very simple shot. But we're not going to focus on that. When you have a difficult shot like the one that we're having to make with this one ball, what you want to do is focus on making the shot. If I end up out here, which is kind of the worst case, we end up over here somewhere, we're just going to play safe. We'll play off the front of the two, let the two bounce off the rail this way, and the cue ball bounce behind the wall of balls. That would be our plan in a tournament. So we really don't care as long as we get to at least here. We just want to be somewhere between there and the rail. So anywhere along this line, we're perfectly happy with that. The closer to the center of the table we are, the better we are. So, okay, so let's clear these lines off and let's go ahead and shoot that one ball. And I'm not going to do all of these. I'm just doing the ones that are really interesting shots like this one. So you're going to see me line it up. I'm lining up where I need to make contact on the 6. I'm lining up where I need to hit the 1 to do that. And then I'm realizing that I'm still holding my break cue, so I go and swap cues and do it again because I don't want to lose focus on the sight. I don't want to lose my point of contact. I'm keeping my eyes locked onto that point of contact all the way through here. I'm just hitting just normal shot. Goes in, and we come out for this shot. Now let me talk about this one too, because this one's a little interesting as well as soon as I move out of the way so we can see the whole thing. So you could see I had some indecision there. So let's look at this one. So all right, so from this angle, our choices are that we could cut it here or we could bank it up here. Either one of those, though, I come over here behind this wall of balls. I really don't want to do that. So if I can draw your attention up to the small diagram at the top, here's my thought process. So if we're going to cut that in the corner, then the tangent line for that shot comes out to the center of the table. Now again, remember that your tangent line is the edge of the ball, so the center of the ball is actually making contact a little bit further over, right? Okay, so we know that if we put top English on this, we're going to get a little bit forward. We're going to end up coming down about here, which means that we're going to make contact with the rail right here. Now, obviously, this angle, I'm going to go from the center of the ball. This angle sends us over behind that wall of balls again. So what I'm going to do is instead, I'm going to use, so if we put this in the corner and we force our cue ball to come down at a sharper angle than the tangent, to get down in here, like it's going to hit, it's going to make contact right about here, and then we're going to send it straight up. Now, with my maximum possible stroke, I cannot get this to come straight up into the 3. So I am going to come off to the right. And what's going to happen is we've got the 9 ball here, we've got the 4 ball here. If I come up anywhere in this angle, I'm going to brush, the 9 ball is going to go off somewhere in this general direction. If I make contact with the 4, it's going to go off in this general area. And the cue ball coming off the 9 is going to run into the 4. Uh, if it hits it thin, if it hits it full, then it's going to hit and it's just going to stop. If it hits the 4 ball here, then it's going to take off this way. And in any of those scenarios, I have a shot on the 3 down into this corner. So that is my plan, because I've got this wall of balls here that is going, I can take advantage of that because there's only a very, very small gap where I go through there and don't touch them. And then I'm no worse off than I was anyhow. But if I make contact with either of those 2 balls, and I'm going to try to make contact with the 9 ball, because if I take that out of the center, it frees everything up and the table gets opened up. So if it hits either of those 2 balls, it clears those balls out of the way, and I have a shot on the 3. Now, obviously, if it goes past the 9, doesn't touch the 9 at all, and hits the 4, I might be in trouble because I'll be behind the 3. But I'm going to be putting as much English as I can to try to hold it for the 9. So even if I'm out here and the 9 just rolls this way a little bit, and the cue ball drifts over, it's still going to hit the 4, and I'm still going to have a shot. So I can use these 2 balls to guarantee my position as long as I can make contact with the 9 first. So let's go ahead and play that. And again, I'm not going to draw out all of these shots. I'm just showing you the ones that are really interesting here, because these are a couple of cool situations that came up in this rack and in the next rack that are worth knowing about. So there I am, top inside, shortens it up off the rail, hits the 9 out of the way, but nudges the 4, and I'm good on the 3. I've got a good angle. Now I can just basically stun up for the 4. Now this one, this angle on the 4 is perfect to send the cue into the rail and spin down for 5. I mentioned in the last video that when you go straight into a rail, the angle you hit on the cue ball is the same angle it comes off the rail. So it's very easy to control where it hits that second rail. All right, 6 ball. So a lot of players, including many of today's pros, will play this shooting the 6 into the corner. I mean, that's obvious. Many of today's pros will simply roll to the rail and then back up for the 7, and they'll use speed to control it. I don't like that shot. Sure, it's easy to execute, and if you're a good shot maker, then it doesn't matter whether you end up down here or up here. You can still make the 7. It does not go in the side. It does not go in that side, so it has to go up into that top right corner, or back over in this side. So you could potentially shoot it and go this way to get a shot on that side. I don't like that either. It's unnecessary. You don't want to move the cue. I don't mind moving the cue ball around the table, but I don't like doing it unnecessarily. In this case, so if you're thinking about this shot and you're thinking about where you want to be, making that into this top corner, you kind of want to be somewhere inside this general space, right? So in the case that we talked about, hitting the ball and going straight up and down, okay, you've got from basically right here to land inside that cone. And no matter where you are, you're fairly distant from the 7 ball. What I like a lot better in this case is to follow it. So I'm going to hit the 6. My cue ball is going to come forward. I'm going to follow it, and I'm going to follow it with top right spin so that it comes this way. Okay, along these lines, roughly, give or take a little bit. So if you look at this, I am in, let me extend this line out a little bit. I am inside this, I am in line this entire time. And actually, I'll stay in line all the way out to about here. So I can hit this and I don't have to worry about the speed. I just want to keep it away from the rail. So as soon as I leave this rail, I'm in line all the way from here to here. Think about that. If I go up and down, like we talked about first, if I go up and down, I will always, the closest I get to the 7 balls here, and we'll talk about it. This is one of the things I want to talk about at some point as a key element or a key concept, is distance between the cue ball and the object ball, and how that affects the difficulty of the shot. So I can be anywhere from there to here, right? And look how far away from the 7 I am. Now, if I come this way, I could be further, I could be closer, but I spend more time inside being in line. And honestly, once you get past a certain point, this isn't that much harder than this is. So rather than going across the line, I'm going to do what they call falling in line. Falling in line means that you're falling into the line of the shot, and so so your speed no longer matters. The only place I really get in trouble is maybe right in here, where the cue ball rebounds off the 7 and bumps the 9. I really don't want to do that. But aside from that, falling in line is a great thing to do all the time, every time, if you can. So let's go ahead and shoot it now. And we'll go ahead and finish this rack out. So again, if you have ideas about things you'd like to see or things you'd like to know about the game, and by the way, you see I hit that a little soft, but I'm still in line. And now it's just an easy shoot the 7 in, let the cue ball bounce off the left rail, and then cut the 9 in. Very easy out from there. If there's something you want to see, that you want to know about, if you have questions about things, put them down in the comments. I read every comment. I try to answer every comment, um, and or respond to every comment. So put it down there. I will see it, and if you have questions about something, I will answer them. All right, so onward to the next rack. All right, so this looks a lot more like my normal break. Um, I get a little bump from the 5 ball, but that's okay. I've got a shot on the 1 up in the top right corner. So the problem here is that I have a problem coming up very, very quickly. If you're going to have a problem, you really want them to come up later. And my problem is right here. That 3 ball. That 3 ball has exactly one pocket that it goes into. That one. It does not go into any other pocket on the table, which means that I have a very, very small landing area to shoot that 3 in directly. So I'm going to want to break this out. Okay, now breaking it out would be really easy if I could get the cue ball right here on the 2, then I could just come off the rail and spin over into it. But I'm so far away with this 1 ball. This has to travel a long way to get into that pocket. And even though it's a pretty full hit, um, if I stun it, and you can't really see this angle, but if I stun it, it's going to go down this line. Okay? I would have to stop this ball pretty much right here. That's not going to happen. The soonest I'm going to be able to stop that ball is over here somewhere. And if I'm going to do that, this angle is really bad for that 2 ball. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get somewhere out here, up a little bit, somewhere out there so that I can shoot the 2 ball in and carry them off that way. And if I do that, um, if I was to do that, I'm hitting this one pretty hard down the table, or it's pretty touchy. There's a lot that can go wrong there. So what I'm going to think about doing instead is I'm going to try to roll up past, well, that that's not right. What I'm going to try to do instead is I'm going to shoot the one in and use top English, and I'm going to try to stop somewhere in here, but that's extremely touchy. If I get too far and I end up down here, that'll be okay because then I can shoot the 2 in the side, bring the cue down, hit 1, 2 rails, and come up this way. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to roll up in this general area, and if I happen to cross the center line, then I'll go down this way and around for that. I really don't like the stun shot on this one. It just puts me in a weird place, and with the 9 sitting where it is, my angle has to be exactly right. So there you see me identifying that it can only go in the one pocket. I check all the others just to make sure, even if it goes in the side over here, maybe that would be okay, but it doesn't. So now I'm looking at the angle because I'm thinking that I'm going to get an angle that's going to, that was me looking at the angle to see what the breakout looks like from that side rail. So I'm going to roll this just hard enough to make it in the pocket, and the cue ball does roll across the center line. Okay, so it rolled across the center line. We expected it to do that. So now we're going, we're at a little bit of a strange angle because if we make that with top, we go into the corner. We don't want to do that, obviously. So we're going to hit this with bottom right hand English. We're going to hit it hard with a lot of right hand English and just below center because we really just want to stun this down to this rail somewhere in here. We want to spin off and we want to head up in this direction for the breakout. Now the ideal breakout here, and this is really important, this 7-3 is dead into the corner. It's absolutely dead into the corner. You almost can't miss that if you hit the 7. If you hit the 7 straight into the 3. Okay, so what we want to do when we break this out, ideally, what we do is the cue ball comes down and hits this side of the 7. If it does that, the 7 goes off this way, the 3 goes off this way, and the cue ball goes off the same direction as the 3, actually out here, which will leave us a shot in the corner almost at any speed. In order to get it wrong, you have to hit the 3 hard enough for it to bounce over to that end rail and the cue ball to stop here. So it's very, very difficult to mess this up if you can hit the right side of that 7. Um, if, on the other hand, you hit the left side of the 7, oops, bad angle. If you come out of here and you hit the left side of the 7 goes off this way, the 3 goes this way, and the cue goes this way. So really, the only thing that can happen here that is bad, there's only two things that happen bad here. One is you miss them entirely, in which case the cue ball comes down here, bounces off, and comes back down the table, and you're kind of screwed. Um, and you're figuring something out. Or if you're unlucky enough to hit that seven right on the end and make the three, because then the cue ball is going to be stuck in this general area, and you can see the five is blocking the four, so you're going to be in trouble. But the odds of that happening are incredibly low. You have to hit that almost perfect, especially since you have side spin on the cue, which is going to be throwing the seven. Yeah, you have to really, really get unlucky to have that happen. So let's watch the shot. And you're going to see here, I'm looking at how far down, I'm going to look at how far down the rail I want to hit it, what it looks like if I hit it up from up here, what that angle looks like. If I hit further down, what it looks like. I'm kind of looking at this to see where I'm going to hit. I'm aiming for this. This is where I want the center of the cue ball to go. I like sending the three to the end rail and the cue ball to the end rail best. So here it comes. And I hit it exactly wrong. All right, which now leaves me unable to see the four. So I'm going to try. So in a tournament against a player, I'm not trying to make this shot. And you're seeing me checking out the two rail angle. And the reason I'm checking out the two rail angle is because the two rail angle sends me in like this, yeah, roughly. I hit that side of the four goes this way. If it falls in, great. If it doesn't, which it most likely will not, then it goes against the rail and it bounces back out here, and the cue ball drifts up this way. And if I hit it just right, the cue ball drifts up behind the seven. Of course, that I'm probably not going to hit it hard enough to do that. If I hit it just perfect, the cue ball ends up out here, and the four ball ends up somewhere between here and here. So that would be the shot if I was playing against another player. In this case, I'm not. I'm playing for the run, so the two rail kick doesn't help me because I'm kicking the four away from a pocket. The only way I get it is if I get lucky and it goes in there. Anytime you get a two rail kick like this, making that ball there requires a pretty large element of luck. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to come kick off of this end rail, hit the four, and try to send it up towards that corner pocket. I'm going to hit it pretty firm because there are a lot of good things that can happen here. If I hit it just right, it goes in the pocket. Cue ball kind of stays down for the five. If I hit it a little bit thin, I could potentially come back up the table, assuming I hit it hard enough. If I hit it a little bit thick, there's a three rail into the corner here, or a two rail into the corner, and there's also a two rail into the side here, although the nine might have a piece of the side pocket one. So there's a lot of good things that can happen here. There's also a safety that could happen here. Uh, it's there are so many good things that can happen. I could hit it up there, and the cue ball comes across and behind the five. That's the safety. There are just so many good things that can happen, so it's worth taking this shot. You can see there's a lot of good things that can happen. I could come off the rail. This is the one bad thing. The cue ball could come off the rail, hit the four, and stun into the corner pocket. Anytime you're hitting under a ball like this, that is a possibility. Um, but in this case, I I really don't have a whole lot of choice because I'm playing for a run. I'm not playing the safeties. Uh, and by the way, if I make the four in the corner like that, you can see here the angle's pretty good to give me a shot on the 5. So let's go ahead and watch that happen. Do a little measuring to make sure I'm going to hit the 4 and I'm not going to stun it into that side. I'm going to hit it
where my sound turned off.
and we're on the path to the top corner. No such luck, and we sell it out, and our opponent gets out. That was the daily break and run.